In 1936, 6 wines in France received the very first controlled designations of origin, the first AOCs in French history. The list reads like a who's who of the great French drink. Châteauneuf-du-Pape, Cognac, Tavel, Arbois, Cassis, and Monbazillac, a sweet white wine from a handful of villages on the south bank of the Dordogne, just outside Bergerac, that was considered important enough to be protected from the very beginning of the French system of protecting things. And yet, most people outside the southwest have barely heard of it. Today, the Tour de France finishes in Bergerac, and we are going to talk about the wine that its most famous neighbour produces. This is Fabulously Delicious, the French food podcast, and welcome back to the Food Tour de France. I'm your host, Andrew Pryor, and today we're talking about Monbazillac. Let's start with what Monbazillac actually is, because it belongs to a family of wines that many people know by reputation, but fewer understand in detail. Monbazillac is a sweet white wine, a liqueur wine, produced on the slopes of the left bank of the Dordogne. Across 5 municipalities in the Dordogne department, the vineyard covers around 2,300 hectares, making it the largest of the local appellations within the broader Bergerac wines region. The wines are always sweet and always blended, made from the same quartet of grape varieties that dominate the white wine vineyards of Bergerac: Bordeaux and Lot de Garonne, Semillon, Sauvignon Blanc, Sauvignon Gris, and Muscatel. These 4 varieties have been grown in this landscape for centuries, and their capacity to build noble rot is precisely what makes wines like Monbazillac possible. Noble rot, botrytis-driven, is the key to everything, and it is one of those genuinely strange facts about wine that the greatest sweet wines in the world are produced by a fungus. Botrytis-driven is a mold that attacks ripe grapes in specific climatic conditions, alternating cool, humid periods with warm, dry, sunny ones. When it attacks the grapes, shrivel and concentrate, the water evaporates, the sugars intensify, and the resulting grape, dried and shrunken and covered in grey mould, looks unpromising at best. But the wine it produces can be extraordinary, rich, complex, deeply aromatic, capable of aging for decades. The geography of Monbazillac is perfectly collaborated for this. The vineyard faces north, which sounds counterintuitive for a wine region, but it is precisely this north-facing exposure that preserves moisture in the morning while the afternoon sun warms and dries the grapes. The morning mists rising from the Dordogne River create the humidity that Botrytis needs to develop, and the afternoon sunshine provides the warmth to concentrate what remains. The result is the best vintages. Is grapes with a sugar content of 255 grams per litre or more, extraordinarily concentrated even by the standards of other great sweet wines. These are the grapes that produce the wines designated as selection de grains noble, the finest and rarest expressions of Monbazillac, where only individual botrytised berries are harvested by hand in multiple passes through the vineyard over several weeks. The harvest is done entirely by hand. Machines are excluded from the specifications because the selection required, picking only the clusters or individual berries that have reached the right state of botrytis at any given moment. This demands human judgment at every pass. The grapes are pressed gently and slowly. Noble rot requires very slow pressing because the fragile skins must not be forced. They must ferment naturally, and the fermentation is stopped even naturally when the rising alcohol kills the yeast, or by the winemaker filtering the yeast out and adding sulfite at a point that preserves at least 45 grams of unfermented sugar per litre in the finished wine. For the selection de grains noble wines, the minimum is 85 grams. These are wines built on sweetness but not defined by it. They have a natural acidity that balances the sugar and gives the wine structure, freshness, and the capacity to age. And age they do. A young Monbazillac, 4 to 5 years old, is already pleasant and attractive, with aromas of honey, acacia, peach blossom, and mirabelle. As it develops, though, over a decade and beyond, the colour deepens from pale straw gold to a richer amber, and the wine acquires what the French call a bouquet. The great Monbazillacs can age for 20, 30 years or more. Monbazillac is one of those wines that works at every stage of a meal in a way that very few wines manage. As an aperitif, it's served well chilled alongside foie gras, the classic combination of the Périgueux. You can have it with a chicken in cream and mushrooms, where the body and the sweetness of the wine can stand up to the richness of the sauce. And at the end of the meal, with a well-aged blue cheese, particularly Roquefort, where the sweetness of the wine against the sharp salt of the cheese is one of those combinations that's just so right. One detail worth knowing about Monbazillac is that most people are not aware of it. The appellation was almost derailed before it properly began. In the 1930s, just before the AOC was granted, a legal dispute erupted between a winemaker from a neighbouring commune and the established Monbazillac producers over who had the right to use the designation. The court ruled in 1934 that the neighbouring producer could not use the name, and 2 years later, Monbazillac received its AOC, one of only 6 in France to receive it on the first day in 1936. A story of protection, of legal battles, of people fighting to preserve the identity of something that they had worked to create, which is, across this entire series, a story we keep on coming back to. Today, the tour finishes in Bergerac, and Bergerac is surrounded by some of the most interesting wine country in France. Monbazillac to the south, where the north-facing slopes above the Dordogne produce a sweet wine that has been considered worth protecting since the very first day France decided that some things were worth protecting. Find a bottle, serve it well chilled alongside something from the Périgueux, a slice of foie gras perhaps, a wedge of good pâté, a piece of Roquefort at the end, and take your time with it. This is not a wine for rushing. That's Monbazillac. Tomorrow on the Food Tour de France, another stage, another story. So bon appétit et à très bientôt.